Welcome to the Free Society U podcast. Free Society programming at Hannibal LaGrange University is focused on promoting the ideals embodied in a free society. And so here we focus on three foundations of a free society: democratic form of government, free market economic systems, and cultural institutions like the church. So the speakers we bring to campus emphasize concepts within these three foundations, often viewing them through the lens of a biblical worldview, which is central to the mission, one of our core values here at Hannibal LaGrange University. And so today, I'm excited for our second episode. We have Dr. Tawni Ferrarini with us. She is the Robert W. Plaster Professor of Economic Education at Lindenwood University, just down the road here in St. Louis. She's also a member of the economics faculty in the Plaster School of Business and Entrepreneurship, and is also a senior fellow at the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise. So welcome, Tawni, to campus. I know you're not a stranger to campus. You've been here how many times?
Well, this will be my third.
Your third time.
Yes, this is great. Thank you.
So you are familiar with Hannibal LaGrange University. To kind of start things off on a light note, we kind of try to ease things into there. So how strong is your opinion on when Christmas decorations go up for the year? Are you a pre or post Thanksgiving person?
Oh, this is a really important question.
Yeah.
It is Black Friday.
It's Black Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In the morning after everything Thanksgiving is tucked away, then we just start and everything's focused on Christmas.
So for the record, that's the right answer.
Yes,
right?
well, thank you. I agree.
That's the correct answer. So you have a new edition of your book coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then where can people pick it up, and when does it come out?
Oh, great question, and thank you so much for asking. It's Common Sense Economics, what everyone should know about wealth and prosperity. It's entering its fourth edition.
Excellent.
And it will be on sale in spring, early spring, St. Martin's Press, and you can pick it up at your typical outlets, from Amazon to Walmart to other places.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're hoping that it lands in a high school or a college classroom. It's intended for that person who just wants to take a peek about economics without getting bogged down with all the heavy jargon. And given where we are entering an election cycle with the presidential election coming up,
Yes.
it'd be a great time for everyone to learn about the differences between markets and government and how they function differently and what we should expect from them.
So what's different in the new edition? What have you added, or what have you changed since the third edition to the fourth edition?
Well, of course, all of the exhibits are updated with current numbers and such.
Sure.
That's the boring part. The exciting part is that the authoring team has been going global, and we're viral in Eastern Europe.
We were just talking about that at coffee just a little while ago.
Yes.
So tell our listeners a little bit about like your trip recently to Europe.
Eastern Europe, yes, thank you. So we had the delightful opportunity, another co-author, Joe Calhoun from Florida State University, and we worked with the Economics Fundamental Initiatives. And what they're doing is they're bringing common sense into former Soviet Union countries to help individuals understand wealth and prosperity from the inside out versus the top down and the heavy-handedness of government. And so we went to Czech Republic, Armenia, Azerbaijan, which is north of Iran, and Georgia. And we felt the presence of the heaviness of Soviet rule and central planning. But then we also experienced the lightness and the optimism of entrepreneurship and of self-empowerment and the ability to freely choose what you buy, when you save, where you go to work, how much you work, and for what wage. All of those decisions are within yourself and between you and the others in the marketplace, so to speak.
Things we in the West take for granted.
Oh, my goodness. It was a shock. It was a shock going over there and talking with them about what they were experiencing, but then to have them look into the United States and think about some of the craziness that's being discussed here when they're trying to bring a lot of people out of extreme poverty. And extreme poverty over there means something very different than it means over here in the United States. And when they look at some of the high priority discussions and agendas that are being moved forward, they wonder if we've forgotten about the person and the freedom to freely speak, to engage in civil dialogue without hostile interactions with others who may think differently than you. So it was an interesting trip. I mean, and we're going back to different Eastern European countries next year.
So I'm glad you brought up about those things and how they relate to the human person.
Yes.
So one of my questions I thought about asking you tonight is a connection, and I know we've talked about this at whether we're at Hillsdale or various different areas, the connection between free market economics and human flourishing.
The connection is simple. Humans flourish when they're helping themselves by serving others in meaningful ways. And that simply means that, yes, you want your family to survive and the people that you hold tightly to you. And how do you do that in such a way where you're impacting the people around you positively, where these exchanges, whether it's time, talent, or treasure, they're mutually beneficial. So you're thinking beyond the me, and the I, and you switch to thinking about the we, and the us.
Which is so countercultural to who we are.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because we're taught, in the West especially, think about yourself, right? You do you. You be the best you can be, and he who dies with the most toys sort of wins, right? It's like, it's this central self-centered aspect of it.
Well, and that's the consumerism aspect of it.
Yeah.
But when you dig into free markets and you look at Adam Smith, the father of modern day economics, and you defined him, well, you also look into the theory of moral sentiments.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you realize that, again, we are social creatures, and we have a natural tendency to help ourselves, but also to bring others, especially those in close proximity to us, that have some type of meaning. And we understand that, we cannot be isolated on an island and not interact with others. It's against everything in our being. So as we move through life, and I think that this comes with experience and wisdom, but the great thing is that through books and interactives and experiences, you can, understand yourself by actually interacting with others and asking them how they see you. And what is it that you can do not only to better yourself, but to walk side by side, shoulder to shoulder, to make the world better in ways that do help you advance, but it helps others at the same time. That's the heart of market economics.
It's almost as if God made us that way, right?
Oh, I wonder. I
He
think
created
that's
us in His image
in His likeness,
community. So your talk tonight here on campus, here in just a little while, is on democratic socialism versus capitalism. So you're a college professor. You interact with Gen Z students all the time. So why do you think that socialism is so attractive to Gen Z college students right now? What is it that is pulling college students in that direction versus, capitalism?
So as we go back and we look at, what college students do, they do this. I mean, they're always bucking the system, so to speak. And that's what we want to encourage on our college campuses. And it's
free exchange of ideas.
Free exchange of ideas. And whether or not I like them, I'm going to sit down and I agree with you, I disagree with you, but at least to respect you enough to have a conversation, a meaningful dialogue, but it's a two-way exchange,
Right.
So I'll listen to your ideas, but please listen to mine and be respectful. And I think now with social media, you have this small minority of activists, and they're coming in, into these spaces. They're interrupting lectures. They're shutting down students who think differently than them. And they can take a person down through social media so quickly. And it's interesting, the number of colleagues around the nation that are leaving higher education because they're like, I can't even look at the statistics and tell you the story that they're revealing without fearing that I'm going to get that socially active group bucking against me. And it's through ignorance. They want to just check off that they've been a part of this movement that's a disruptor. And at times it takes down the person, their career, in just a few minutes. And it's unfortunate.
It seems like a lot of the dialogue that I like what you said about, like, I'm going to sit down and listen to you and then you're going to listen to me, right? And so that's this free exchange of ideas. But it seems like what we're seeing on college campuses today is not a lot of light, but more heat. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
Like the dialogue is not like respectful.
Yes.
From a standpoint like I'm trying to enlighten you about my views. It seems to be a lot more heat than light.
I agree with that. And the heat is just, flicking flames all over and then not being responsible for the fire that you start and not providing people with the water to put out the flame and destroying people, persons, and property. And we're doing it to ourselves. And that's what is interesting. We have a government that serves in its limited capacity to protect our property and our persons. But now, how do you protect us from us?
That's a great question.
It's a great question. It's a question that I don't know how to answer it.
I don't know the answer to it.
I don't either. And when you think of the way the technology is advancing and you think about the use of AI and how just, it's something new, it's cool. So many young people are using it.
Yeah.
But now we're detecting these biasness in them. And actually, the political biasness in favor of the left is documented. And so then how do you, if that's what's going out and they're accepting it like sponges without questioning whether it's accurate, authentic, and they're so willing to consume misinformation and then act on it. So you're looking at it, it's like this is destroying not only others' life, but it's destroying your own because we get back to wealth and prosperity. Mm-hmm. At the heart of that, you have responsible individuals who are pursuing their goals without destroying other people's property and bringing harm to their persons.
Sure.
And the best way to serve yourself is by serving others. You can go right back to Adam Smith, and that's at the heart.
Absolutely. Thinking about, you said we're approaching, as we all know, an election year. One of the questions we like to ask of all of our Free Society guests is this kind of final question. But what do you think that students can do to get more engaged in the democratic process, other than vote? Like, that would be the obvious first starter. But where can students sort of insert themselves into the conversation in the democratic process so that their voice is heard in a positive way?
Well, and like in positive, I think, again, we get back to the meaningful and the respectful. And though their opinions may differ from others, they're going to be in a process that's supposed to be inclusive and diversified in thought and in policy considerations, and the list goes on. I would say to volunteer, but volunteer as an informed agent, understanding that as we move forward, the tendency to favor democratic socialism is on the rise. It's documented. There's hardcore evidence that regardless of the destruction of person and property, people still are kind of clinging onto it. So group with others and sit down and think about how just on the margin or just incrementally, how can you have a conversation over coffee? And just say, have you thought about this?
Coffee does tend to make things better.
Well, it does, especially if it's not caffeinated. But you, my friend, gave me a lot of caffeine in my drink.
I did give you a lot of caffeine tonight. It could be an interesting lecture tonight.
It's going to be a great lecture tonight. But one of the things, and I hope people take note of this, we went through, and I've been doing an experiment with colleagues at Florida State. That's where this experiment initiated. And we have $75 worth of items that we've been tracking and over oh my gosh, I don't even, 2 decades, two and a half decades. I know it's long, $75. And what do we hear about the economy today? We're in an inflationary period. And
prices are up.
Oh, well, hold on, my friend. Okay, so the $75, we actually purchased most of the items at a lower price today because of the advancements in technology that have cut the costs that have been transferred to the student. The benefits are the students, the consumers, in the form of lower prices, better products, and more variety.
More choices.
More choices, yes, more choices. But we were able to go back and purchase the same brands that we did in 2000. There was one exception, and that was baby formula.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Baby formula is outrageously priced. And can you guess why that is? Trade restrictions and government policy, my friend.
Regulations.
Yes, regulation. And so we're looking at a vulnerable part of our population. We've got some of the people that we honor, the people who have these families, these young ones, and the cost of giving these individuals the formula has increased.
Skyrocketing.
Not because it's a lack of resources or resources are dwindling. It's regulation.
That's interesting. Yeah, my parents just yesterday, so they're very brand loyal, right? And so I called my dad yesterday. My dad's 76, my mom's 77. And I just called him on the phone just to check on him. I'm like, well, how are you doing? And they said, Dad's like, good. We're on our third store. And I said, well, what are you doing? And he said, we're looking for a certain kind of cough syrup.
Oh.
So they're looking for like Vicks Vapor 44. It's called Vicks 44. And he's like, no place in Hannibal carries it anymore. And they were determined
to have that brand.
To have that brand. I'm like, Dad, there's so many other choices. He goes, I know.
Yeah.
But we want that brand. So that's interesting consumer behavior, all that. I'm sure a lot of that's going to come out tonight. So thank you for coming tonight. You know, you've been a regular guest here on campus. Hope to have you back again on the podcast. Maybe we could do a whole podcast about AI.
Oh my goodness!
As college professors, because I have a lot of opinions on AI. So, and a lot of experience over the last several months in AI catching of plagiarism and things like that. So maybe that would be an interesting conversation for us to have down the road.
That would be wonderful. Okay. And so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Tawni, for coming. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.